r/AskReddit. Serious, people who have been falsely accused of rape sexual assault. What happened? I got hauled out of my middle school in front of my peers at end of day and questioned by police. My cousin accused me of touching her. Police questioned me for an hour. She later recanted her accusation, then went on to accuse her father, grandfather and stepmother of all molesting her. Edit: to make it clear, I was a middle schooler. There was a post on relationship advice a few weeks ago about a dude whose girlfriend's son was being molested by his cousin or one of his friends. Can't remember. Anyways, the kid ends up blaming it on the boyfriend and the mom calls the police and the dude ends up losing his job over it. Eventually the kid came clean, but the damage had already been done. In relationship advice, I think 2 days ago there was one where a husband was accused by his 14-15 years old sil of getting her pregnant. Wife left to be with her family. Guy lawyered up and his very wise lawyer advised him to leave the house and counteract with a paternity test. Lawyer saved the guy's life. His Phil came and broke in the house with a deadly weapon. Upon finding he was not there, trashed the whole place. The request for a paternity scared the girl to tell the truth that it was her classmate who was the dad, and same classmate suggested she pin the blame on him. Guy now is readying himself to sue his Phil with a bunch of lawsuits and charges. Plus he isn't sure, even with being proved that he isn't the suspect, he can be the same with his wife or his job. Hasn't updated if he's fired yet, but was definitely alienated. Edit: in case they want to read that post, old reddit.com link. Also didn't read the part he was self-employed. But things like these accusations can seriously cost you your career even if you are innocent. Dated a girl in university for 2 years. After graduating we lived apart and tried the long distance thing. She cheated on me with a married man and got pregnant. When her family found out, she told them I raped her and it's mine. 2.5 months of this hell and I demanded a paternity test and she came clean. One of the worst experiences of my life. It's been 7 years now and it still gets to me. Why didn't you just demand a paternity test to begin with? Was thinking the same thing. 2.5 months is a long time to wait to demand that. A girl in high school accused me of sexually molesting her. We were at a campfire party on the beach with 4 other people. We had known each other since grade school but didn't date each other or anything. We just knew each other. She asked me walk down the beach with her. After getting away from everyone else, she got really close to me, obviously wanting to kiss. We did. And then we walked into a little secluded area in the cliff by the beach. She gave me a big smile and pulled down her bathing suit top and showed me truly magnificent boobs. Maybe the third set I'd ever seen in my life. I got to make out and play with naked boobs. My Saturday night was suddenly going absolutely great. After maybe half an hour of that, we went back to the campfire. We spent another hour or so there, talking with everyone else. Then everyone gradually went home. About Thursday of the following week, a teacher that I knew personally asked me to him talk for a minute. He told me that the girl had said I pulled her into a hidden spot, pulled her bathing suit off and fondled her. I told him the story and he said he'd pass it along to the right people. Apparently he did. He later told me the story had been retracted and the other people there, including her good friend, had backed up that nothing seemed to be wrong. It still pissed me off. We never really spoke to each other for the remaining year of high school. How the heck did you have the courage to tell the teacher exactly what happened? I get it was important, but you've got some courage. That could just because I don't have any, but still. Honestly, I would declare on national TV that I have a small penis if it meant that I would not be falsely accused of sexual assault anymore. I got accused once at a house party for bringing a passed out girl to a cab. Lucky for me, the separate cab I called for myself showed up seconds later and I peaced out real quick. Yeah, never been formally accused, but have been confronted by a group of guys for carrying my passed out GF home. They stopped me like, "Where are you taking that girl?" Basically looking ready to fight. And I was like, "This is my GF. I'm taking her to the apartment we share. Look, we're wearing matching costumes. Here's a ton of pics of us together on my phone." Honestly pretty glad those guys were willing to stand up for a passed out girl, but also glad they actually listened to me and didn't immediately start beating my ass to save her. That's really good of them and I hope it becomes the norm. My ex-girlfriend, mother of my daughter, falsely accused me and my father of molesting my daughter during a custody battle when she felt like she was losing. My lawyer said this is a common tactic and that it pretty much works every time. She called it the atom bomb of strategies when it comes to gaining custody. I immediately lost all rights to my daughter and was placed on supervised visitation. Despite there being absolutely no evidence and the district attorney clearing us of any wrongdoing, it still completely destroyed my relationship with my daughter and pretty much my life for a while. I eventually regained custody, but that was only after a lengthy trial and several $1,000s in court and lawyer fees. Even then, things were still never the same. I recently lost all contact with my daughter and decided to just try and move on because the whole situation was so difficult to deal with. It completely destroyed my trust in people and I'm currently seeing a therapist to deal with it all. Edit. Spelling. I hope you stay strong, man. Hopefully one day your daughter will know the truth. Well, obviously the daughter knows whether or not they molested her. I went to a 1,000 student college. Dated my first girlfriend for like 2 months. Dumped her, and she tried spreading a rumor that I sexually assaulted her. She had told me that her previous boyfriend in high school did the same. She also said it about the next 2 guys she dated, who I already knew, and they both told me what she said about me, along with a few other people. Thankfully none of them believed her. She genuinely has some issues and tells people she was sexually assaulted for attention. I've come to learn there was no high school boyfriend. Since then she's just learned to be more vague about telling people so it sounds more believable. She needs to have a mental evaluation. She needs a swift kick in the ass. She's not a great liar, just a good enough liar. But I hear her professional life is suffering because people in her industry are catching on to the fact that she's full of shit and hard to work with. But I never have to see her, so whatever. Refused to sleep with a drunk woman. She claimed I raped her and knocked her up. Her friends corroborated it. I passed lie detector and DNA test. Baby came out red-headed and I am half black. Yep, I was in service at time and was stripped of a stripe and confined to barracks for 3 months. I filed charges against her and she was bad conduct discharged from service. I was given a full apology from her in court on lieu of jail time due to her having a child. Edit. Boy, this blew up. Yes, I gained my rank back and was, to be honest, fast-tracked to an E6 afterwards. Did you get your stripe back? So you were punished with no real repetitions and she continued living basically unchanged? When there's no downside to false accusations, it's hard to even blame the women who do it. Accused by a former subordinate while in the military. My CO at the time was a firm believer that people don't lie about that, as her sister was a rape victim at some point. They called in feds and I went through a several month-long investigation and had both military and civil retraining orders placed against me. I was in and out of court for it and the feds frequently visited me at home. Truth came out that I didn't rape, sexually assault, but I was treated like I just got away with murder for the next few years till I just decided to get out. I still have issues from that and see a therapist several years later. Truth came out that I didn't rape, sexually assault, but I was treated like I just got away with murder for the next few years till I just decided to get out. The military has a way of doing that. I was falsely accused of something completely different, and when it came to light that I did not in fact do that thing, I was treated like I had dodged a bullet or gotten away with it. I just didn't do it. I was arrested and investigated for something. A couple months later, my chain of command told me that they couldn't court-martial me since I'd be found innocent anyway, and then they gave me a bad letter in my record. I was questioned by a polite police officer in my apartment living room and showed him pictures of myself out at dinner with my parents when the alleged assault happened. There were never any formal charges pressed, so it didn't go farther than that. I lost many of my friends, and although she never pressed charges, she still insists that I came onto her. Similar, was accused. She was seeking attention. Police came and questioned me. I showed them tickets and my passport that showed I was on the literal other side of the world. America. Equivalent. They shrugged and it didn't go further. I posted about said trip over social media. Her friends. My friends knew about this trip and seen me update shit on a daily basis. For an annoying amount of them, this wasn't enough. I lost a good deal of friends over it. Thankfully my job seen through it, as her and her friends wanted to get me fired. Her friends. My friends knew about this trip and seen me update shit on a daily basis. For an annoying amount of them, this wasn't enough. Wait, Wait, you're telling me that your friends saw straight up proof that you were literally on the other side of the planet when the alleged attack occurred, and they still thought you might be guilty? What in the duck is wrong with people? I lost friends. Like almost all of them, only the people who trusted me remained. The woman in question never tried to report anything because I had evidence that showed she was lying. Didn't matter to those friends though. Can't you at least sue for defamation in such a case? Honestly, maybe. I was like 16 or 17 and moved the following year because my family moves a lot. It was a while ago. I've posted this before, so just going to copy and paste. Back in college, a girlfriend broke up with me, but a couple weeks later we had sex. We both regretted it immediately, but things happen. She told her friend about it, and her friend tried to convince her I had raped her. My ex tried explaining that she had initiated it. It was an impulse thing, but she wanted it at the time and only regretted it after it was done because it had just confused our otherwise clean breakup. Nope. Her friend kept insisting she had been raped. This friend then went around telling people I had raped my ex. We were into rough sex, and so clearly anyone that is a total rapist, right? For her part, my ex tried to clear things up as much as she could, but some people just don't care about the truth, even if it comes straight from the victim, because they have a narrative to follow. Thankfully the friend stopped spreading the rumor, and it never reached the police, campus security, or administrators. Probably the worst part about the whole thing was that the year prior, I had been sexually assaulted, raped, I'm not even sure of where the line falls really, by a girl at a party. Never reported it because of denial and the men can't be raped mentality. Yay sexism. Hot damn, people are stupid. Truly idiotic. Man, I hate to have something to add to this one. I used to work with kids as a camp counselor. It's a big summer camp kind of thing where kids come up with their class. All the teachers are there, a number of volunteer parents, camp staff, teacher and principal, and as counselor volunteers. To the kids, counselors are in this cool middle ground between adult and childhood, so very often are targets of the kids' crushes. There are various ways to address this, but the general idea is don't encourage it and stay on task. This particular week I was the object of a few cabins affections, and as usual I did my part of staying on task, not encouraging it. Gave admin a heads up. Standard stuff. At lunchtime we have all the kids line up to come into the cafeteria by group. It's like 100 kids, a dozen or so parents, teachers, another dozen counselors. I'm calling in groups by cabin number and they are all filing into the cafeteria. One of the girls that was filing in jumped out of line to give me a hug before she went in. I responded with a dismissive yeah, keep it moving everyone, and that was it. Literally thought nothing of it. Halfway through lunch I am pulled into the camp chief's office where for the next hour, he grilled me about what the duck was I up to with the kids. He accused me of molesting a kid, said I'd been reported, wanted to hear it from me directly. It wasn't until the end of that discussion that I was told that I was reported by a parent who witnessed the hug that I was probably doing something to the kids. Keeping in mind this hugging incident was in front of at least 80 kids and 15 plus adults. After that nothing else was said, but I was rattled. I was a regular volunteer there for years, but I never went back, and they asked me a number of times. I was also a trainer. To this day I all but completely refuse to be alone with any young girls where there are not other adults present. Doors open. Witnesses. 20 years later and I'm still rattled about it. Don't know if that counts, as this was nothing that ever went to the police or anything, but a few days walking around a camp and an accused pedophile was enough of a taste for me. I thought hugging kids was pretty common. When I was in elementary school it was. Have times changed that much? At my church, about a decade ago, I remember when our priest abruptly stopped hugging kids, giving them high fives, tousling their hair, everything. Apparently, he, along with other priests in the area, had been given instructions from the parish that touching of any kind was to be avoided at all costs. We aren't Catholic, but I'm sure it had to do with the scandal, and that was a decade ago. Times have changed. My roommate's ex followed me home from the bar while I repeatedly told her to go home. She refused to take no for an answer and started screaming outside. I finally opened the door and told her to knock it off or I was calling the cops. She started to force her way inside and was screaming that I was hurting her. I just let her in at that point because I didn't want my neighbors to start assuming I was beating women. She went into my roommate's room and they started arguing and I fell asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night and she was in my bed. I was obviously real uncomfortable, so I laid down on the couch. I wake up a few hours later and my roommate is standing over me saying what the duck, and I realize that she was on the couch with me now, asleep again. I explained to him what happened and he laughed it off. I laughed too but was legitimately very uncomfortable with all of it. 2 weeks later I found out that she told her whole ducking sorority that I raped her, which spread throughout campus. I was lucky not many people believed it, but a few did. Most of whom were just casual acquaintances, so it wasn't that big of a deal that we didn't talk after that. The thing that stuck with me the most was seeing how quickly those women believed her bullshit and spread it around like it was undeniably the truth. After the second time waking up I would have kicked her out. I would have after the first. Had a nearly 1-year relationship with a girl in college. She was always a bit unstable, had an anxiety diagnosis, and told me that she had been raped twice before. This got her heavily involved in groups that were for women who had been victims of sexual assault harassment. I was always there to support her when the anxiety memories came back to haunt her and was, and am, a vocal advocate for victim survivors of sexual assault. We were sexually active and if our relationship were ever on the rocks emotionally, she would always try to end arguments with really good sex. I didn't mind it. Makeup sex can be great. Well, the summer before my sophomore year, we were really on the rocks and she told me that she was pregnant. I asked her if she'd tested herself and she said yes. Twice. I asked to see it and she yelled at me for not believing her. I asked if we could go to the doctor together and she yelled again at me. After 2 days of arguing about it, she told me that she miscarried. Everything fell apart after that. She lost all ability to be emotionally stable, became verbally and emotionally abusive, and I just had to end it. We broke up and I made an emphasis on cutting the cord, even at a friendship level, because I knew how easily she could tempt me back. I find out a year later from a friend that I trust that she's been going around to people and those sexual assault advocacy programs at our school saying that I raped her, got her pregnant and then raped her so viciously that she miscarried. Dozens of friends never talked to me again. She ruined my reputation with the community at large. The people closest to me knew I wasn't capable of something like that. I'm still friends with those people to this day. I was accused in college by a classroom professor and a fellow student of stalking and harassing with intent to rape, for reasons which are complex, but I am able to explain. The resolution of this event came about when the department chairperson confronted both the teacher and the student. The teacher admitted to the department chairperson that the accusation against me were in fact false, and furthermore, that the teacher had actually encouraged the female classmates to spread rumors against me. The department chairperson and me had correspondence over email, and I managed to save those series of emails which exonerate me on paper. I have an actual hard copy printout of the correspondence between myself and the department chairperson who confronted the teacher and the student who falsely accused me. Do you know why they did this? Probably due to some perceived slight on their part, I expect. I can't believe someone in a position of authority, especially a teacher, actually encouraged this kind of behavior. Are they trustworthy enough to continue teaching? My ex-girlfriend, after a 7-year relationship, she was cheating on me, owed me a lot of money, and wanted to break up while keeping friends to herself. Gave 2 interviews to the police. Gave them access to my medical records where her physical abuse on me over the years had been recorded. Passed on chat logs that had been given to me from friends where she told them she was going to say I raped her to stop me trying to collect the money. Gave the police full account of our sex life, Safyards, witnesses, other partners, campsites we'd been on, everything. She couldn't keep the story straight from day to day, wasn't able to stick with her when way how. End result was the police found no case to answer. As for the impact, it ducked me up for a number of years, and continues to do so. I'm now on Prozac for anxiety that traces back to that. My support network of friends dissolved around me, and there are still double-digit number of people who don't talk to me from a false accusation 6+ years ago. These are the ones that really bug me. The accused has piles of evidence proving that this never happened. and the accuser has abused the accused in the past, you have evidence that the lies were premeditated, and nothing happens to the accuser, and the accused's relationships suffer. Ducking bullshit. Welcome to the absolutely sexist judicial system. I was a few weeks into my first management role in my life. I was assistant manager at a movie theater. One of the female employees behind the concession stand wasn't restocking her stuff, so I asked her, rather politely, to restock her station. This was a regular part of their job and something all concession employees knew they had to do, so it was not out of the ordinary for me to request that. She apparently got upset that I asked her to do her job, so she filed for a sexual harassment claim against me. Nothing ever happened because lack of evidence. I consider myself lucky because I already had a good reputation and everyone knew the real story, so I didn't really lose any credibility at all and it really wasn't a big deal. Girls who try and use the fact most people believe sexual harassment claims instantly are as bad as the people that actually do what they accuse the person of. My ex accused me of many things after she cheated on me. She went around school saying stuff like I raped her, forced her to do anal, threatened to impregnate her, etc. Luckily, I had a very good friend who, while I was in a clinic, debunked all those accusations and defended me all the way. Her accusations backfired and she had a talk with the principal. So he basically said, "Young lady, go into timeout and think about what you did." Yeah, there wouldn't have been way more than just a talk with the principal if it was the other way around. But thank God your friend had your back and nobody believed her bullshit. Bro, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.